Well, hello and welcome to our monthly sales and marketing webinar by Developers Advantage. And welcome to my favorite month, which is the Valentine month of February. I am Mona Hilton, and I'm delighted to be your host today. And today's topic is No Leads Left Behind. And I'm really excited to share my perspective on this for you today because I have been obsessed with this whole concept now for over 17 years in residential and new home sales and marketing. I believe that if we can truly achieve a no lead left behind standard, then we can also achieve the absolute maximum efficiency and effectiveness of sales and marketing. So as always, if you have any questions or you'd like to, anything that I talk about, or you'd like me to send you a recording of a past webinar, send me a chat in the chat window and we'll do our best to get it to you. So, well, since this is a Valentine webinar, let me start with a story about love, or maybe love gone wrong. You can decide. Imagine for a moment that you are a single lady going to a dating website. You're thinking about getting back into the game, but you're not quite sure yet. You just want to see what's out there. So you go to Matchamate.com, and I totally made up this website. It does not exist, so don't go looking for it. But you go to Matchamate.com, and you're looking to see if anything catches your eye, no pun intended, and you look through a few profiles, you click to look a little further, but before you can even get to know any of them, Casanova here asks you to marry him. What? Hold your roses, Romeo. You were just looking for information. All you hoped for was a nice conversation, maybe a cup of coffee, certainly not a marriage proposal. So imagine how that would make you feel. You might actually think twice before you go back to Matchamate.com or any other dating website for that matter. Now, I'm sure about half of you are wondering, what on earth does this have to do with sales and marketing, much less leads? But stay with me. I'm illustrating a point. But before I get to my point, I want to switch gears a little bit, and I'll come back to this story. Now, since 2000, when we were asked by Community Developer to help them systemize and automate their sales and marketing, I've had the honor and the privilege of personally speaking to literally hundreds of developers and builders and sales managers. And one of the questions I have asked repeatedly over these years is, if you could wave a magic wand and you could get one thing that would make your job easier, better, and more successful, what would be the one thing that you want? Now, the answers are often amusing, and we do hear the same things that come up over and over again. But many, many times I get a nervous chuckle, and we need more leads. We need more new home sales. And they immediately follow that by a little bit of a nervous laugh, trying to cover up how candid they were, like they're just joking. Truth be told, though, all joking aside, is that what new home communities really want is a constant supply of fresh leads and a higher number of those leads converting into home buyers, what we call, of course, a higher conversion rate. And since upwards of 87% of our new leads today come through the internet, it just makes sense to focus our energies on starting there with our internet leads. Now, the whole notion of no more missed leads really requires, in our opinion, that there be 5 critical elements that come together just so and flow seamlessly one into the other in order to reach the objective of no more missed leads. Now, these 5 elements have to work in conjunction with each other, but they also have to have a smooth transition between them at each juncture point, if you will, so that their leads cannot fall through the cracks between them. Now let's talk about what we believe is the first element, and it's kind of a no-brainer. It's to attract leads. Duh, of course. Now, there's an old basketball adage that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And that applies to leads too, because you miss 100% of the leads that you don't attract in the first place. In other words, if leads are coming to your community or your development website and they're bouncing before they stick, you have absolutely no chance of capturing those leads, much less turning them into home buyers. And the flip side is, if like in our dating scenario, they come to your site looking for education or information, and you ask them for an immediate commitment, like come tour our community or contact us now, and before they're ready, that might be too invasive, too much too soon, when all they really wanted was to be educated on a topic that's important to them right now, or information, or a comparison chart, or just maybe a nice conversation. The reason that third-party home buyer referral sites work and continue to generate leads is because they're doing the right thing. They're offering content of value, education, resources, information that's of interest to someone who's considering buying a new home and looking at their options. Now, unfortunately, the downside is that some of these third-party referral sites, not all of them, mind you, but some of them have a business model of collecting leads and then selling them back to multiple communities, both you and all of your competition at the same time, for a king's ransom. The truth is, what they do sounds complicated and intimidating, but you can accomplish the same thing pretty simply without even breaking the bank. By providing some of these same type of what we call high-value resources on your website that address the current concerns or questions that your prospects are having or the decisions that they're making, not only do you cut down on the expensive middleman, but you're also beating your competition to that lead, and you're also attracting leads, and this is important here, that are earlier on in their decision-making process. While they're still just looking to be educated, they're not quite ready to commit, they haven't made a commitment, you're getting leads who aren't ready to request a visit or fill out a contact us form because they know what's going to happen. They're going to be bombarded. However, what your leads have done is they've expressed interest in educational material or comparison charts or resources or a specific question that they have that you can provide them with a supply of similar resources to the one that they requested and continue to build your value with them and stay in touch with them. Now, another advantage, no pun intended, is that you get leads who have in many ways pre-qualified themselves and have often indicated for you what type of lead they are. So what I mean by that is a person who downloads an article called Kiss Your Landlord Goodbye, Why You Can Afford a New Home, is not someone who's looking for a job with your company or trying to find someone who's already in your community. They've indicated for you that they're most likely a renter because of the subject matter, the content that they downloaded. Now, depending on who you want to attract, you can create or select content to appeal to that specific niche target audience that's right for your community and attracts only them, whether it's renters or home buyers or adult families, adult communities, or even realtors who can sell in your community and be a great resource for you. Things like content like should you rent or should you buy, or maybe the advantages of living in a gated community, or new home or resale, condo or single family home, which is best for your lifestyle. That helps you attract the right audience and get them earlier on when they're still looking. Now, the second element is, this is a site that shows you what that would look like if you can see that blue section when they fill out that form. What we want to do here is we want to capture the leads. That's the second element. Now here's the formula. The formula is The content that they are receiving has to be of much more value than the amount of personal information that you're requesting in return. So name and email address is about the most you want to request initially on that first date, so to speak. And make sure that what they're receiving back in return for their name and address is much more valuable and useful to them. It's all about great, valuable content that's topic related, very strategic content to get that click-through. But don't congratulate yourself just because you got that click-through. Not quite yet, because unfortunately, this is where many, many leads fall through the cracks. Let me explain what I mean. While it's normal to get a click-through on your landing page or on your website, and even send the lead an autoresponder, thank you, one of those generic autoresponders, and maybe even send an email to you when that lead clicks through so you know you got it. But then what? What happens then? This is where most leads fall through the cracks and into that black hole of missing leads because the systemization, it all ends there. There's no automated process. There's no tracking after the click-through, and that's why managers are often asking, what happened to all of our leads? Where are they going? Who's working them? The trick is to find a better way to make sure that every single lead, absolutely no exception, instantly and immediately gets launched on element number 3, which is lead capture. So, nurture leads. We want to nurture our leads here. So here's the thing. Your lead clicked through, but they did not give you permission to bombard them or call them. So what do? What can you do? Well, since it's Valentine's month, it's easy. You send them flowers. Those flowers are in the form of resources, happy testimonials of past buyers, from new homeowners, maybe a personal invitation to be a resource, answer questions, give them advice, maybe do some financial calculations with them to see what they can afford, those kinds of things. And since we know that it takes 5 to 7 touches to reach a lead, we recommend that you plan out in advance 7 nurture touches spaced out over several weeks. Now, with each resource that you send to them, you also invite them to engage with you, to raise their hand, to RSVP, to ask to speak to you, whatever that is. And at any point during this nurturing process, they can tell you that they have questions, they want to chat, they give you your phone number. In fact, what they're doing is they're giving you permission to contact them. Now you can congratulate yourself. That's awesome. Because that takes us to the next step, which is to personally engage. Our objective is personal engagement. Not this kind, though. Engage with your leads more person to person, usually by phone the first time if they came through the internet. Ultimately, you need to determine if you can help this lead or this family or not. Said another way, you need to find out if this lead moves on to be an active prospect that's engaged with you, or they become inactive because for one reason or another, they're not a good match, your community doesn't have what they need, they can't afford it, whatever that is. We call this the discovery process. Here's the reality. Most people come to your website not knowing exactly what it is that they need or what they want or what you have. They don't know the difference between HOW or HUD or PUD or any of the other acronyms that we use. It's our job to make a warm connection, ask the right questions, educate them, get to know them, and then match their needs and their expectations with what our community can deliver, and decide where to go next with this lead. Do we move on as a prospect or not? It's also important to note that discovery is also a critical place to notate their unique story for their next home or what they need for their next home. In a way, it's basically the fork in the road. Now, for your non-internet leads, the kind that walked through your door, came into your sales center, or called you first, your discovery process, your engagement process, is the first step with them. And this is where you pick up that process. Now, the next step beyond that is the human follow-up. Now, once you've engaged with your lead and you've determined that you can indeed help them and they're a good match for you and you're a good match for them, they become an active prospect. And your role now is as an advisor to walk them through their buying journey, through milestones of usually model tours, maybe multiple model tours, contract, ultimately to the goal of a home sale, obviously. This, again, is another place where prospects go missing. It's not because you want to lose them or you tried to lose them or even that you're negligent. It's because the follow-up process is so fuzzy, it's so subjective, and it's prone to disruptions by life. Now, I've said this before, but people mean to follow up. Unfortunately, though, life gets in the way. There are other priorities, there's disruptions, there's things that happen that overshadow the follow-up process until, like I say, you wake up one night, in the middle of the night, with what I call an oh shoot moment, where you realize, oh shoot, was I supposed to call the Hilton family back, and what do I do now because I'm late, I'm kind of embarrassed, I didn't give them the information. The truth is, one of the biggest barriers to follow-up is that people don't know what to do for follow-up. So having a reminder that says, hey, you need to follow up, isn't always sufficient. Now, what if for every milestone, like a community or a model tour, you had a library of follow-up things sitting on a shelf that you could just pull down, customize, and use, like an invitation email to a luncheon, maybe a round of golf, testimonials you could send, handwritten verbiage that you could write in a note card, talking points for a follow-up call, etc., that were all ready to go. And what if you had a system that nudged you, that suggested one of those actions for you, and kept it in front of you every single day for each one of your active prospects? Would that help you? Well, before I get ahead of myself, let me first talk about some general guidelines for follow-up tactics. Very specific techniques that you can use or tips that you can use in your follow-up. The first one is that your follow-up should be appropriate to what they have responded to or downloaded. Now, who they are and what they're interested in should determine the messages and the nuances of your follow-up. So, for example, if they contacted you about a single-family community, don't send them information, or a single-family community, don't send them information about a 55 and up neighborhood or send them information about your condos across town. Instead, you might want to follow up with a personal invitation and an event calendar for your wine and cheese open house at a new model home or something else that's coming up. As I mentioned earlier, oftentimes your web leads will indicate for you who they are. So, for example, a lead that downloads an article on is it time to downsize is probably an older couple not interested in an estate home or expansion. You also want to stay relevant. Make sure you clearly communicate your value. I recently read a true story of a real estate agent, professional. Her name was Mary P. Mary thought she had found the perfect strategy for maintaining contact and follow-up with her prospects. For more than a decade, she's sent recipe cards to each of them every month as part of her plan to stay in touch. One day, when a prospect called her to say, hey, I was thinking about you the other day, Mary quietly congratulated herself on the success of her follow-up. But the prospect's next words cut her to the quick. We just sold our house and we bought another one, and I wanted to give you our new address so you could continue sending me those wonderful recipe cards. Ugh. At that moment, Mary realized her recipe cards had not done a thing to generate business. She said, people thought of me as a lady who likes to bake, not the real estate professional to help them out with their family's real estate needs. All that work of sending out cards for 10 years, I was devastated. That's so sad. Mary's recipes had been appreciated, but they hadn't demonstrated her core value, what she offered them. What a tragedy. So make sure that your follow-up is relevant both to you and to your prospects. Make sure they know what it is that you do and how you can help them. Another tip is your follow-up should be consistent and quick. Now, we know that the longer it takes to do follow-up, the more days that go by, the lower statistically the likelihood is that it will get done. There's a term out there, a new buzzword called speed to lead, and it refers to measuring how long it takes to reach a new lead. And I know we're talking about human follow-up here, but the same thing applies. Statistics show that if you contact your web lead within 5 minutes of them reaching out to you, you are 100 times more likely to reach them, engage them, and sell to them than if you wait just 30 minutes. Pretty obvious. They're still in front of their computer, it's still hot on their mind, and your competition surely hasn't reached them yet. And there's a way to do that. But make sure your follow-up is consistent, it's quick, and too much time doesn't go by. Your follow-up should also have a reason and a goal or objective and a call to action. So whatever you do, my pet peeve is don't call and say, hey, I'm calling to follow up. They know immediately, that tells them immediately that you don't really have a reason for calling. You're just calling to follow up. And you know how that makes you feel when somebody does it to you. You feel like you're wasting your time, and really all you can think about is, how do I get off this phone? I mean, admit it, we've all done it. You've done it, I've done it. It's common. So when you call, make sure you have a reason to call. Maybe you're inviting them to an on-site event or a luncheon at your clubhouse or a round of golf. Or maybe it's a Valentine's Day party at your community, or a barbecue where you're doing hot dogs and burgers. Or you can give them a piece of information about something they might find interesting, like a new amenity or a design feature that's going to be available to see, or an upcoming ribbon cutting in the area. Something that makes you a resource, not a salesperson. And then you can invite them back to see the models again. Another friendly reason to follow up is just to ask a couple of quick questions. People love to give their opinion. So that might start with, hey, I'm curious, what did you think about this or that? So when you engage people in friendly conversation, you have developed a relationship, and you're not a salesperson who's only interested in the sale. And of course, along with that reason to call, make sure you have an objective, what it is you're trying to accomplish, whether you're trying to get them back or get some information. Another follow-up tip is your follow-up should be personal. Now, none of us love those canned follow-up emails that look generic, like they were sent to everyone in your database. So please personalize your emails. Ask about their dog Rover, or mention that you were thinking about them when you met someone else from Massachusetts or their hometown. Or refer to something that you discussed in your last conversation. So back in that discovery process, when you were asking all those questions and getting to know them and taking good notes about their life journey, by doing that, you have information that you can ask about or refer back to when you make those calls. Now, speaking of personal follow-up, do not estimate the power of those handwritten notes. Let me tell you a personal story. I have never really been good about writing notes, but I'm trying. I'm trying to do a better job of it. So about a month or so ago, I pulled out a bunch of clients' names, and I started writing handwritten notes and sent them out. Within days, I got the most sincere, heartfelt email from the CEO of a company who happened to be a man, so it's not just something that works on women. It works great on men. And he told me how touched he was by my note and how rare it was to receive one. He said he'd be hanging on to my card. I was really impressed. He was just one person who took the time to respond. But who knows those other cards that I sent out, what impact they had too that I may never know about. So do not estimate the power of handwritten notes. They don't have to be long. They just have to be sincere. Another follow-up tip is that your follow-up path should be standardized and automated. Now, what you want to do here is you want to create systems out of your desired follow-up. The problem with leaving follow-up to an individual is that you're going to get individual, varying, different results. By standardizing and automating your follow-up, that allows a top performer, someone who's a veteran, who's been doing this and does a great job, and someone who's new to the industry with just a little bit of training, to follow up using the same methods, the same techniques, and ultimately get the same results. Also, your follow-up avoids those oh shoot moments that I talked about earlier. This is a great place for technology to be your assistant. My last follow-up tip is that your follow-up should be pre-planned, not haphazard, not left to subjective or a person's memory. You know, it's obvious, but you wouldn't get in your car and start driving from Fort Myers, Florida to Chicago, Illinois without having a roadmap or a GPS, right? Well, of course, the same thing applies to your follow-up. By having a planned follow-up process, you know where you're going. You've thought through all the steps ahead of time. You're not winging it. And even if you do happen to hit a detour, a roadblock, or a delay of some kind, you can always get around it back on the path that you want to be on. What you don't want is the first time that your team thinks about doing the follow-up steps to be the first time that they need to do it. That's not good. That creates unnecessary stress. It reduces the probability that it's going to get done. So have a plan. There's a quote that I'll show you later on, that I love from Mike Tyson. It's, everybody's got a plan until you get hit in the mouth. I love that. Now, I know that these follow-up tips are common sense, pretty straightforward, no brain surgery here, but the truth is they're a lot easier to talk about than they are to do. And the truth is, even if you do everything perfectly, from the very first touch all the way through follow-up, there's no guarantee that you're going to have a 100% close ratio. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist. There are too many factors that are out of our control. But what you will have is peace of mind that you know that you did everything right. You did your best, that your follow-up was flawless, that you left no leads left behind. And as an added bonus, you will be rewarded by doubling your conversion rates at the very minimum. We've proven it. So what makes these 5 elements work is that they mirror your home buyer's journey. For more on the topic of the home buying journey, send me a message in a chat. We did a webinar about a month or so ago. Be happy to send that to you. If you're interested, just let me know. But as my dad used to say, talk is cheap, but you've got to actually do the work, which can be challenging in this age of distractions and, oh, shiny object, and multitasking and juggling multiple tasks and leads that are in different stages. The fundamental breakdown is undoubtedly in execution. It's not enough to know, we've got to do. And pulling off all of these 5 steps isn't exactly easy. What we need to do is we need to have a focused tactical plan. And putting your plan on paper increases the chances of doing it by 7 times. Likewise, systemizing that plan, that exponentially skyrockets your chances even more, creating systems of it. Here's that quote by Mike Tyson. Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. I love that. The trick is what I call process control. And process control is defined by tools and events that help you work the plan even when, especially when, you don't feel like it or things get off target. That's the ideal. Now, Developers Advantage is just such a system for community home communities, new home communities, developers, builders, and such. What Developers Advantage does is it packages this entire 5-step process that we talked about, complete with content and a library of articles and resources to attract your leads, a 7-touch nurture campaign with the verbiage, the messages, the emails, everything, engagement discovery questions that help you qualify your leads, and specific follow-up tasks sitting on the shelf just ready for you to use so you can walk through the milestones of engaging your prospects, doing the community tours, contract, home sale, and then, of course, automating that entire process includes alerts, reminders, next steps, suggestions on what to do next, and nudges to make sure that no lead is truly left behind. Developer's Advantage is really a disciplined and systematic answer to the question I got from developers when I asked the magic wand question. It is a way to generate that constant stream of fresh, high-quality leads and then put together a process for follow-up through the milestones and automate that to ensure that the maximum number of those leads become new home buyers. Now, I'm not here today to pitch Developer's Advantage. I'm here to share with you some of the strategies that we found to be effective and the techniques that we've developed to get to the best, the highest levels of success. But Developer's Advantage is a system that we created to ensure that all these processes, procedures, and follow-up techniques are flawless and bulletproof. So if you'd like to see if Developer's Advantage would benefit your communities, we'd be honored to help you in any way that we can. Just let us know you're interested. So before I wrap up for today, I always like to start with an inspirational video like the rose soap that I showed you earlier, and I like to end with something motivational. And today, instead of a video, a motivational video, I'd like to tell you the story about focus. Now, for those of you who have followed me for a while, maybe attended previous webinars, you have been, whether you liked it or not, subjected to my unapologetic stories of my daughter's athletic prowess. My daughter Alexandra started playing travel softball at 8 years old, and now she's 14. She actually turns 15 the day after Valentine's Day, which is why I love this month so much. This girl has a knack for anything with a ball. This year, the high school girls basketball coach got a hold of her and had her try out for the basketball team. She's not exceptionally tall, thanks to me and my genes, but the coach liked her for her speed, and he told me he loved her focus when she was on the court. Now, not only did Alexandra make the girls' basketball team, she's the only ninth grader to make the varsity team, and she's a starter. There, I bragged. I have watched, through the season, I've watched your coach groom her, push her, condition her, and teach her the plays. And I've watched Alexandra work herself to the point of exhaustion. I've seen her turn down many social events, and I've learned from her the power of laser focus. That's why I love this quote. You have to say no to a lot of good things in order to be able to say yes to a lot of great things. Now, I took this picture about a week and a half ago, I think. It was during a game, and you can see Alexandra there. She's the one in the red in the circle. She stole the ball from the opposing team on their end of the court, and she headed for our end of the court with that ball. And I know this is fuzzy, but you might be able to tell by kind of looking closely how determined and focused that look on her face is. That girl was not going to let anything get in the way of her in that basket. So as you can see here, she's using her body and her arm to push her opponent away. She's laser focused. Now, as I watched all of this go down, it dawned on me that we need that sharp of a laser focus to get to any goal that we have. Nothing would be impossible. That kind of focus blocks out every single thing but the goal. There's no opponent, there's no obstacle, there's no thought that can get in the way. And by the way, you don't have to believe every single thought that you have. It is so easy to talk ourselves out of our own victory. To entertain thoughts and distraction and activities, both benign and even good ones, those get us off tracks. But use Alexandra's determination that you see here as focus, as inspiration. Look at her. I was looking at this and I thought, you know what is amazing? She had one thing on her mind, and that goal. There was a lot of things that she was not thinking about. To be focused, there's things that you have to choose to block out. So here are some of the things that she was not thinking about. She wasn't thinking about her Facebook likes or who unfriended her or who followed her on Instagram, her victories or her failures last year, last week, or even yesterday. She wasn't thinking about the latest in politics or world peace or what she needed to add to her grocery list or who won the Super Bowl. Sorry about that. She wasn't worried about what her hair looked like or what people were thinking about her or all the other things on her to-do list or the dozens of emails that she had to return in her inbox, or she wasn't thinking about tomorrow, maybe there's a board presentation, the latest news on LinkedIn, or the countless other very important things that bombard our minds all day, every day. She had one thing on her mind, and that was that basketball net. And God help you if you got between her and that goal. She was going to use her body to push you out of the way and get to her goal. So my question to you is, what is your goal? What would happen if you laser focused, blocked out everything, and focus on your goal and apply that to your business goals, your sales goals, your life goals, or any goal that you would have? What would you be capable of? I would tell you nothing can get in your way. So thanks again for sharing part of your day with me today. I'm so happy you came today. If we can be of any help to you at all, please contact us. Otherwise, until next month, I say Happy Valentine's Day and stay focused on your goals. Have a beautiful Valentine's Day, and I want to end with one more quick video for your entertainment.
Hi, I'm a school CRM. What you got there? I'm trying to stop all my leads from leaking through the cracks. You're leaking. Those leaks are costing me down. If they figured that out, I just... What are you doing? Oh, well, I just got a hot lead, processed it, started engaging them. Now we're chatting online. Oh, talk.